So I'm going to record this. And again, I want to thank you guys. Really what this is this comes from a survey. We did a couple surveys in some of the emails that I sent out. And what we found, and what I also found during the first session of StacyK Academy, is people have been asking how we fire our clients. And so one of the things that we do at StacyK Academy is week 5 is we talk about the client scoring matrix that we use and what we do with that client scoring matrix. And one of the things that ultimately happens is we end up having to fire crappy clients. When we put together our 2015 marketing plan, one of the first things, and it's actually right at the top of the worksheet that we filled out, was that we didn't want to work with clients that suck. And that was just one of the biggest things that we wanted to talk about. And we really implemented all of the stuff that we are teaching, that I'm teaching in StacyK Academy. And part of it is doing the client scoring matrix and then actually following through with the results of the scoring. And that's basically what we're going to talk about today, is following through with doing that. So when we're talking about the client scoring matrix, what Shannon and I found is that there were some pain points for us when we started implementing the scoring matrix. And what for us, the biggest pain points was that we were having a hard time doing the scoring on a consistent schedule. What I recommend doing is doing it more often when you first start it. And once you get through it and you get used to doing it and you kind of weed out those crappy clients, you can do it less often because you don't really need to. And then the other thing that we found that was a little bit difficult for us, and it was just really more of being consistent, because we work remotely, we both have kids, I was traveling, there was just kind of a lot of factors that we were struggling with, and it was following through on the ones that were getting the low scores. So that was another pain point for us personally. I equate this for us with starting a new workout plan. It was really hard to get going, but once we did, it really worked well, and we have seen vast improvements. And I would say that Kildall Services is probably in the best shape. I mean, we've seen it, and this is combined. And I use this in the, like, not to sound cheesy, but like when we're talking about the client scoring matrix and the quick review and everything that we use at Kildall Services and we teach at StacyK Academy, it really is like a whole plan. And it worked. We were expecting about a 30% increase in revenue. And when I looked at our numbers at the end of July over our year-over-year numbers, we were at just about 67%. So when we implemented all of this stuff together, and once we had it working as a well-oiled machine, it was double what we were expecting. Some other pain points that I kind of discovered after going through the first session of StacyK Academy is that for some sole practitioners, it's always working in a vacuum. And I think that this is just across the board, and it's not necessarily in dealing with the scoring matrix, but specifically when dealing with the scoring matrix, it can be hard to tell if the criteria that you're setting up for the scoring matrix is going to be valid, and if that scoring is reliable. So and it's harder to implement those solutions. So with Shannon and I, we tend to play what we call good cop, bad cop. And the other thing too is, I always ask, what are some of the others? I don't really think that question is all that applicable here. And then for some of the larger firms, what I discovered is that it was a little bit more difficult for them to agree on 5 categories of criteria, as well as agreeing on what those fixes should be for the low scoring clients. So those are just some of the things to think about when we're talking about looking at client scoring matrix for those of you who are thinking about signing up for for StacyK and going through this and using this. So when we're talking about our case study, this is an actual client that we went through and we had to deal with last year. It was really difficult. Hang on one second. I'm going to send an invite to somebody who just registered and let them hop in right now, just so they have it. And there we go. Okay. So this, and I apologize, I did these slides. I don't apologize. I'm just going to own it. I did the slides absolutely positively the way that you're not supposed to. They're so text heavy, but there's really no other way to do it because it's a case study. So what we found was this client, and it was one of those things where when we first started implementing quick review, we hadn't started doing it for every single client that we took on. And this was a client where we sort of, we kind of waffled on whether or not we should really take the client on in the first place, but ultimately I made the call and we did. And what happened was this person was continually helping with her books, and I'm sure you guys have seen clients, or you guys have experienced clients who do that. They will try to help you do your job. And so what was happening, there was tons of errors and we would have to go in and correct them. And this was after we'd already done the work that this person had hired us to do. So we were doing double the work. Also, another issue was we weren't getting the bank statements to do our bank reconciliation. So we were getting months behind on the bank reconciliation. And the last major issue, and these are just the three biggest issues for us, was this person was asking for numerous unscheduled calls, and we were unable to answer or return these calls to her satisfaction. So the way that we work is we tell clients right out of the gate, don't call us, because odds are we're probably not going to be able to answer the call. If you need a phone call, please email or text one of us and we will schedule a call, and please let us know what you need to talk about so that we know how much time to schedule for that call. And so this person was not doing that. So she would call and we would get frustrated because we were unable to answer it. We were unable to return her calls to her in a timely fashion according to her, what she was expecting. And so there was just a lot of problems with her. So we went through and we did our client scoring, and she obviously was on the low end of the scoring. And so what we did was we had decided one of the fixes that we were going to do when we had clients who were low scorers or they hit a certain number is put them on probation. So we initiated this probation. And when we do that, what we do is we gather all the documentation. I am an email pack rat. My partner Shannon is an email pack rat. So we saved all of those emails. We printed them. We saved them all as PDF. We recorded each one of the dates and times of our calls. One of the things that we do is when we tell the clients we need to schedule the phone calls, we always do them in our conference calling app so that we can record them. And the reason we do that is so that we can go back and say to the client, no, here's the recording. This is what you asked us to do. Very rarely do we schedule a phone call and just have the phone call on one of our office phones or our cell phone. If it's something that has to do with the work involved, it's generally always in our conference calling so that it can be recorded. We did record anything that was not answered. We made a note of anything that was, we were unable to answer. Any voicemails that she left, we use Google Voice, so we were actually we were able to download and save, actually print off the transcripts, because Google Voice will sort of try to transcribe them. It's not the greatest, all of her voicemails. So we really gathered all of the documentation and all of the issues and laid it out in a very clear and concise format. And so then we sent her an email detailing every one of the issues that you see up there, 1, 2, and 3. We included documentation for every one of those issues. And then we outlined our plan to correct this. So the email, and I have a very specific format, email format that we use for every client email that we send out. It's really specific. It's bullet pointed. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we need from you. It's not wordy. I don't bother with dear so-and-so. I hope your dog is fine, blah, 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 blah. Anybody who's emailed me back and forth knows that it's like, hey, I don't bother with a lot of trivial stuff. I get right to the point. And so that's what this was. And we notified her exactly of what our intentions were and told her that if we couldn't solve this within 2 months, that we were going to terminate our engagement. So we were very clear, and we included documentation, and we had a very, very specific outline of our plan to have this corrected. So then we got to our probation process. So we have basically 2 months or 60 days of probation. Because of the way this client, our relationship with the client, we weren't actually able to play the good cop, bad cop the way we usually do. So usually Shannon is good cop and I'm usually bad cop, mostly because I'm just more comfortable. I'm just more comfortable playing bad cop, for one. And Shannon usually has more of a day-to-day relationship with the client. But because we both had an equal contact with this client, we really weren't able to do that good cop, bad cop. So we had to really have a touch with the client, both of us, during the probation process. And so with each bullet point, each one of those issues, every time she would help, we would document in detail, and it was kind of a pain in the butt, right? So we would have to very carefully document all of our work. We use this with Camtasia, so we would actually create recordings, video recordings, and send those short videos along with a PDF of the QBO audit log to illustrate all of that extra time and the steps that it was taking to fix her helping and her mistakes of stuff that we had already done. The other thing that we did throughout this 60 days or this 2-month probation period was we kept trying to get these statements from her, and we explained to her numerous times. And every time we did this, we would include our previous emails asking her for these statements and explain to her that by not getting us the statements that we needed to do her reconciliations in that timely fashion, she basically was keeping us from doing the job that she had paid us to do. And so because she was keeping us from doing that, when she did get them to us, she was insisting on us getting them done right away. Like, oh, hey, I got this for you. So I needed to get this hurry up and done because I have a meeting and I have to go meet with my accountant, or I'm going to meet with my financial planner. So I got you, these 2 or 3 months worth of statements. I need this done by tomorrow because I'm meeting with my financial planner. So this, we kept explaining to her, is opening up opportunities because you're asking us to hurry and it's causing us to rush. And also we can't always do this because we have other clients to service and we have, kids and families and personal lives, and you're really not respecting us at all. So we were very, very explicit, and we included every one of those emails when we sent them. A history, like she would get like just PDF after PDF after PDF every time this happened. And the last thing that we did during the probation process was we really continued to explain to her that all of the calls needed to be scheduled. And again, telling her that we needed to have an agenda of what she wanted to talk about so that we could schedule an appropriate time so that we could give her the time that she deserved, and so that we could use that conference calling system so we could record that, not just to protect us, but to protect her and to make sure that she got the service that she was paying for. And also, we do prefer to resolve all of our issues via email so that there is a very clear understanding and that written record of those expectations. And again, we were very, very, very clear And we kept trying to explain to her that this is not just protecting us, this is really protecting her as well. And this is a service to her to make sure that she gets what she's paying for. We are really trying to provide you the best possible customer service. And you're really making it, like, we didn't come right out and say it, but we were like, hey, lady, you're really making it hard for us to give you the service that we want to give you. So we just kept trying to do this, and it was a nonstop thing. And you can do, whatever time frame you want. It just depends on the issues that you're having with the client. So finally, after our probation period, we had decided that we needed to disengage. So we came to firing of the client. And I know I used to get really freaked out about firing clients because it's loss of revenue. And, you panic and you think, oh, I'm losing this money. But what I found is that time and that energy, that crappy client sucks because they don't respect you. They don't respect the people that are on your team. They really don't respect their own business is really what it boils down to. Because you don't have to deal with that, it really gives you the opportunity it opens up you to have other things, better opportunities, and you're not so focused and you're not so stressed out on dealing with this caustic personality. So what we did was, when we decided on the disengagement process, we forward the original notification email. We always, throughout this process, we always request a read receipt for each one of these emails throughout this entire process. For those of you who were in the last free webinar that I did, which was about Boomerang for Gmail, I use Gmail and Google Apps, which inherently don't offer read receipts, but Boomerang for Gmail does. So if you haven't seen that, let me know. I can send you a link to the video. So we let them know that we had reached the end of that 2-month probation and we would be terminating the engagement at the end of the current month. So even though the client was on a 2-month probation period, we really kept the client on for 3 months because our original engagement letter states that we have 30 days. Either they can shut down or we can terminate the relationship, and we need a 30-day notice for that. So in that engagement letter, or in that email, we basically detail exactly what tasks we have to finish, what is left for us to do, and what we have to do, what we're going to do. Here's what is going to happen. I think the most important thing is thanking the client and expressing our disappointment. This is a huge thing, I think, that a lot of people forget to do. And the other thing that I think is really important when disengaging in this manner is we make sure that we offer to refer other pro advisors. So we will ask her if she prefers someone local, or whoever the client is, we will ask them, do you prefer to be referred to another pro advisor that's in your area, or would you prefer someone in your industry? And I will spend the time, I will take an hour or so, or however long it takes, to find 2 or 3 people that are in that area or in that industry, whatever the client is asking for. I'm not just going to walk away from the client unless they're a total absolute jerk ass. And that's happened once in 13 years that I have refunded the client every dime they've ever paid me, walked away and said, don't ever talk to us again. It's happened one time. Everybody else, I have really said, hey, this isn't working and I'm really sorry, really disappointed. Thank you so much for trusting us. How can I help you? I don't want to just leave you high and dry. I want to make sure that you have the help. And then the last piece of this disengagement process is making sure that we have a read receipt. And the reason why the read receipt is so important is because our disengagement letter that my attorney wrote it states in very fine print at the bottom, In the event that we do not receive a signed copy back from you, we will consider the receipt of the email to which this letter was attached, the acknowledgement and agreement to our disengagement letter. I have no idea whether or not that's actually legal. My attorney suggested that I put that in there. And so what I have found is more often than not, I do not get a signed engagement letter back. But I also make sure that our disengagement letter says, please make sure that you change any passwords, remove me as a QBO user, yada, yada, yada. And I do also make sure that this is in there and I do get that red receipt. I think that's a really important factor in doing that. So we're really meticulous. I'm really meticulous about the disengagement process, and I want to make sure that it is as simple, it is as painless as possible, and that the client walks away, maybe not 100% happy, but at least feeling good that we didn't just fire them and walk away. And that's basically it. I mean, that I think is that's how we go through our firing process and firing our crappy clients. We have 20 people in here. I'm going to unmute, and if anybody has any questions, I'm just going to open it up and just let you guys ask the questions rather than having to type them in the chat if you guys don't want to. So if anybody has any questions, everybody's unmuted. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
I've had several clients that fall into this category, and very difficult to get information from them. The hard part about it is they keep sending me payments for my bills, and I don't know. I mean, eventually they come through, but I don't know. It's a difficult process to go through to say, okay, we're not going to do this anymore.
So you're saying that you are still waiting to get payment?
No, that's the thing. They're paying the bills, but they're not giving us the work.
Oh, exactly. And you know what? And that's great. And we get really frustrated. And what happens is when they come back, we've fired clients for that. We have everybody on a sales receipt. And so they automatically get billed. And Shannon and I have had many meetings where it's like, okay, we're not getting the information. And so we have had to go through and we've done our client scoring and we've said, okay, we're going to let them know we're now 4 months behind in the work. If we don't get the stuff, if we don't get any information from them by the end of this next month, we're going to let them know that we're done because we're not going to be able to play catch up with them. And then there's nothing you can do about a client like that. And I mean, I feel bad taking their money, but if it's like a gym membership, if they're going to sign up for it and never go, there's nothing that you can do about it. And I would rather have a client I would rather not feel guilty about taking the money.
Right.
So, and then somebody else that's a good comment. I mean,
I had one client just recently that I've went through this with. It was a small client and easy to let go, but it was frustrating because I did several meetings, went through everything I needed, how I needed it, when I needed it, and now it's even 2 years later and still don't have anything.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
But I've gotten paid.
Yeah. Well, and then you're like, we had one client who paid us a $1,500 retainer, and we never saw them, never heard another word from them ever again.
Huh.
Ever. And Shannon and I are world-class nudgers. I mean, every single week we were bugging them like, hey, do you want to get started? Do you want to get started? And we heard nothing from them. And there's nothing you can do. And finally we were like, okay, we're done. I'm just not going to put any more energy into it.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not very serious about what they hired me to do. Cindy has a question. What do you do if you've decided you want to fire the client and not go through the probation? So at that point, if we know that we just want to cut them loose, we're not going to go through the probation process. We just go straight to the disengagement. So we just go straight to this. We just skip the probation and go straight to disengagement. And just rather than forward the original probation notification email, we just notify the client that we are going to disengage and just say, hey. But usually we will try, it's very rare that we will just fire a client without, and I think now, when we first started doing the client scoring process, we would, there were clients that we just had to fire. And part of it was because of scope creep. And so we would maybe say, hey, we need to, raise your rates. And they would choose to go, there's a bunch of different ways that you can kind of do it. But generally, we just, at this point, if we're going to just fire them, we just skip the probation and go straight to disengagement. Hey, and what we tell them, and we're very, usually very honest. And we just say, hey, we just don't think it's a good fit. And we tell them the reason. And, here's what we're going to do. We're done at the end of the month. And we basically do 2, 3, and 4 on this screen.
I came in a little bit late on the seminar. Is the scoring piece in your...
No, because the scoring piece is part of the academy. So that's actually one of the tools that you get with the academy.
Okay.
And this is just this webinar is just how to fire them once you get to the point where you want to. This is just like, hey, we've decided that we're going to fire them. And this is just the process that we go through.
Okay.
And there was somebody else who was going to... who said they had unmuted and they were going to ask a question. I heard somebody else a minute ago speak up. There was someone. Maybe not.
It was me, Stacy. It's Laura.
Hey.
I was just thinking about, hey, all the documentation and work you do, like, how is that received? It almost feels like you're building a case against them. Do they usually get embarrassed, or like what is the reaction of
There, you know what? I don't think I've had one person comment on it. Like, I don't think I've ever had one. If they're embarrassed, they haven't ever said anything. Because there's not really anything to say. I think we had one guy who was like, wow, you guys are pretty detailed. And that was kind of it. But, he's like, but that's the only comment we've ever had. So, but usually they'll say, oh yeah, I'll try better, or we'll work on it, is usually what they say. Sometimes they don't reply at all to it. We've had some clients who we have started this probation process and they've just said, oh, well then why don't we just, terminate at the end, we'll just finish out this month, and they've kind of ended it for us.
Yeah, I could see that. Has any improved and become, you're able to keep them?
Yeah, actually, we've only done this probably a handful of times. We had one who was just like, well, never mind, we're done. And we had this one, and then we had one who he was just like, oh my gosh, I'm really, really sorry. I didn't realize, just let me know what I need to do. And he actually ended up hiring a part-time assistant, like a virtual assistant, to help him get everything ready. He's like, I think I need some help. And so we actually sent him some recommendations of some virtual assistants, and he hired an assistant to help him get us the stuff that we needed.
Stacy, have you ever had anybody that wanted to have it in the reverse, where they just wanted to let you go and they didn't really even have any good reason or discuss it with you?
Oh yeah, we had one. This was like back in like the beginning of 2014. So yeah, this was a trip. He had somebody working part-time working for him, and he emailed called Shannon and said, I think Stacy's been reading too much of her own press. And Shannon said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not really sure what that means. But this is also the guy who had an assistant who wanted us to create fake paychecks so she could get a car loan. Yeah. And so Shannon was like, I'm not really sure what you're talking about because I never talked to the guy. So she's like, well, you usually deal with me. And so he basically realized that he just decided that apparently I don't really know why. He just decided that it was not worth he was going to find it cheaper somewhere else. And so I think that's what it was. And so he ended up telling us, hey, we're done. And then 3 months later, he came back and tried to hire Shannon directly.
Oh, nice.
And I've had clients who have said, hey, thanks, we're going to be done. I found someone else who can do this, who can do this for this much less, who can do this for, cheaper. And I say, okay, but just know that, you're on rates that we don't charge that anymore. We charge more now. So if you come back, you're not going to be paying the same. And so, 4 months later, they have no idea where their cash position is, and their bills are all past due, and their payroll liabilities haven't been paid. And so, I mean, we've had that happen. I mean, I've had that happen a bunch of times where clients have just decided for whatever reason and not told me, like, hey, we're just done. I've had that happen.
Anyway.
And that's fine. I'm fine with that. I usually try to ask, and some of them are comfortable telling us, and some of them aren't. But not lately. We haven't had anybody
That's a good idea.
since we started implementing our quick review, because we're vetting them before we bring them on. We haven't had anybody go
that I mailed
in probably almost a year.
I think he's looking for a K1.
I had one client that I basically just walked out on him because he started yelling at me. I went into his office. I was with him for like 4 years. I would go into his office weekly and take care of everything. And for whatever reason, he wasn't happy with the way that I was, maybe he thought I wasn't doing it fast enough or whatever. But he started screaming at me and telling me that nobody liked me there. So I just packed up my stuff on my desk and I left him a note and I said, I'm not coming back. I didn't even go through the whole process with the disengagement. I don't think he was surprised or upset about it, but you know what? I'm not going to have anybody talk to me that way.
No, I agree.
He was not being nice at all, so I just walked right out. I said, that's it. I don't need this crap, and I just walked out.
Yep, I completely agree. And we just did that. I just did that. It was probably the beginning of last year. I had someone who was just absolutely positively, it's the only time I've ever given a refund. He was so nasty to Shannon, and she bent over backwards helping him. And I refunded him. He'd only paid us, I gave him, because he's somebody that I had in a prior working relationship with, and I refunded him every dime. He hadn't paid us that much money. I refunded him every dime that he had paid us. He accused Shannon of not doing any work, so I saved the audit log. It was an 80-page PDF, and sent it to him with a copy of his refund receipt. And I said, please don't contact us anymore. I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah.
We're done. So yeah, but that's the only time I've ever done that.
Yeah.
But I've caught clients with fraud, like I've been deposed because I've caught clients, embezzling. I've been through the ringer over the last 13 years. So
it always amazes me what they think they can get away with, right?
It's like you're not gonna get caught.
Yep. Crazy.
You guys have any other questions about any of that?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. What are the scared that you wouldn't, you need the money for the bills, and you have this crappy clients, and you just want to try to cope with them while you're looking for some other new client. Is there a window time frame to cope with crappy clients?
Well, I think you need to keep hang on to that revenue. I think you need to really have a plan for it, and that's the probation, let the client know we have a certain amount of time and I need things to be fixed, and have a plan, have an exit strategy. I'll keep this client on for 6 more months, but then really bust your ass to try and find another client to replace that. I mean, that's really the only thing I can suggest. And we've done that. We've absolutely positively done that. If you guys hear screaming in the background, it's my kids upstairs, just so that you know. I'm not sure what's happening up there, but there's something crazy going on. So then if you guys have any other questions, or if you guys are interested at all about what's going on with the Academy, I think next Tuesday I'm going to do just an open Q&A, 11:30 Eastern time. If anybody has any questions about what is going on with the Academy and what the sessions are, I'd be more than happy just to answer questions about it. And we'll send out an email. I think most of you are on the email list, so we'll send that out in the next couple days and let you guys know.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks, you guys. I hope that you guys all have a great afternoon. I want to thank you for taking some time. And if you have any questions, just email me. I think you guys all have my email, like my personal email, my Gmail. Just send me an email.
Enjoy your back deck.
I'm going to try. I'm hoping my inbox, so like I have an obsession with inbox zero, and I have I think 20 emails in my inbox, and it gives me, it makes me sweat having more than 10 or 15 emails. And so I have to, probably going to end up sitting on my deck working on email. So we'll see.
Well, I thank you.
Thanks, you guys. Have an amazing afternoon. I hope you guys all get to go play hooky.
Bye.
Thanks, you guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.